It's go time with the 2218's Attitude for Gratitude podcast, and I am Timothy J. And tonight, I am your host, which means I've got a little bit of a different situation going on. Matt's going to be sitting in for the first few minutes, and then we're going to have Elena hopping over to do her segment, and then she's going to co-host with me while we talk to our guest who came all the way in from Arizona for the show.
Right on.
Or I don't know if it was just strictly for the show, but we'll talk about that here in a little bit. So, first thing I want to talk about is 2218's. Someone's got to turn down their phone. Okay, thank you. 2218. That's where we're having the show from. That's where I preach and praise every single week. So, what I'm getting at is that Elena will be putting down the link for you guys to donate or to find out more information about this club. This club saved my life. It saves many of lives, and over the years, millions of lives. It's got tons of meetings throughout the week. It has Pat Cronin birthday bash here. It does the Ride for Recovery. It does so many events throughout the year. It's just a great place to come get your recovery and come to volunteer your time. So with that said, I do not have a problem promoting it. And they're also the place that let us have an outlet for this podcast, which has helped in my recovery and helped save my life and spread this word of recovery. And with that, I want to say hi to Matt.
What's up, Tim?
What's up, buddy? So you are filling in kind of, we're doing a weird kind of a hybrid show tonight. Matt's going to sit in. We're going to check in. I'm going to talk to him about how his weeks went. Tad has finally, for the first time in a long time, got a weekend off. So he's going to take some Tad time, which is well needed from my understanding. And we all need some me time. Elena talks about it all the time. Like when she was on the show, her whole show was about like self-care. Like that's what we need to do sometimes. So if Tad's listening or when he does listen, I'm glad you're off having a little me time, a little Tad time. How was your week, Matt?
My week was good. You know, Tuesday I went to a job interview for.
Yeah.
So I got training on the 19th, so I'm looking forward to that.
So you got the job?
I get training to certify me, like be a licensed security guard.
Nice.
Yeah, I'll be working U.S. Bank Stadium for.
Oh, that's right. You were telling me about that.
Yeah, part-time working there.
So that went through.
Yep. And so I just go to the training, and then I get the training done. Then I'm licensed, and I get paid for the training. So even if I don't get it, I still made some money in some form of way.
So how does that work? You go through training, and then they decide if they want you hired on?
Yes, like that. Yeah.
Something like that?
Yeah.
Like see if you make the cut type deal?
Yeah.
Like if you can run the 50 in a certain amount of time, or?
Yeah, exactly.
Do they get what, nightclubs, billy clubs, and flashlights, or what?
I'm not sure, so I'll find out on my training.
I guess.
I'm sure it's gonna be like just like a taser, maybe.
Hey, security.
Yeah.
And you're dealing with a bunch of people at those type of places. So, no, that's awesome, bro. Good for you.
Yeah.
What else has been going on?
Not much, just kind of been doing my outpatient stuff.
Yeah.
Through New Way.
Okay. And then meeting-wise, haven't you got a new position somewhere? Or what's going on with that? Like, I know you're stepping up in your recovery. How's that going? What's that about?
That's good. I now chair the meetings on Friday nights here at 2218 from 6:30 to 8. So I'm here. So like my Fridays are busy now. Like I do my chairman meeting for an hour and a half. Then I'm here on the podcast for the next 2 to 3 hours.
Right. So like 5 to 6 hours of your Friday nights like for your recovery.
Yeah, every day is for my recovery.
Right.
My weekends, like sometimes I won't come up here on the weekends because I need my self-care time. So that's what
Right.
I use my weekends for.
Hell yeah. Good for you, dude. Like and how much time do you have right now?
I'll be 9 months at the end of this month.
Good job, bro.
On, man.
Good job.
Thank you.
So like you would say to someone else who's trying to get 9 months, like what?
Just find what works best for you. Like for me, it's coming up here to 2018 doing meetings, like getting into a service position. Like just find what you find enjoyable to do for your recovery.
Okay.
Like I spend a lot of my time like doing fellowship after meetings. Some nights, like for me, this is my fellowship. Like doing this podcast.
Right. You get involved. Like been getting involved big time.
Yeah. The biggest part is like being involved in the recovery. It helps you stay sober and clean.
Cool.
Like, if you're not being involved, like that's where like the struggle can come to like want to go back and use or drink again.
Right. No, that's awesome. That's awesome. Hey, how's it going? Um, yeah, we got people popping in and stuff, so it's kind of interrupting sometimes. But you know what? That's what you deal with. We got a lot of things going on up here. They're finally getting to clean these floors down here, so we're gonna be dealing with that a little bit. It should be quiet, but if you hear background noise, that's what it is. We keep our club very nice and clean and tidy and ba 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 ba. So I'm happy for you, bro. I really am. And thanks for stepping up for the show. Like, I know that you are being basically vetted to be like the other producer here, and you're really stepping up, and we appreciate you for doing that.
Thank you.
So, no, thank you.
So, Tim, how was your week?
All right. He's really co-hosting. I wasn't sure if he's going to ask me or not. My week's been good. Been working like crazy. That commitment I talked about before, where it was like nonstop work, that's kind of over now. Now I'm back to the regular grind of work. Like, I took vacation to go do work, and now I'm back to work. So that's good though. This is what I'm doing now is the type of work where it's like home improvement. So I really enjoy doing that. In recovery more so than ever before. Like, I get that sense of accomplishment more so than ever. I can really appreciate the work I do. Show up, floor's not done. I do the floor, it's done, and I get to like enjoy it. I don't know how else to explain it, but I get to appreciate the life I have now. My week's been real good. It's been real good. Family came into town. I don't get to see that much. Like, it's very far and few between that I see my cousins from Arizona. It's usually for a terrible reason. Like, the last few times we've seen each other, it's for a fucking death, which sucks. But that's life. Like, I mean, I think he was down here. Oh, we'll talk about that a little bit later. Other than that, though, I appreciate you, man. I really do. I appreciate you stepping up and helping out the show. Like, you're going to be part of it while we grow and move on to bigger, better things. But I'm really grateful for you. With that, I want to let the audience know that this is an interactive show. So if ever, just be part of the show. Make the show your show. If you have ideas for the show, reach out to myself, reach out to Tad, put them on this thread. Elena put my number down. She put her number down. Feel free to reach out to either of us privately if you don't want your questions to be made public. We're quite all right with that. We'll read them and leave your name out. But this show is interactive. This show, like I say, is your show. This is a networking situation. All we strive to do is like help people find the same thing that we have found, happiness. For me, that's what I'm saying. I feel like I'm droning on, but this is interactive. Make this your show. 2218. Thank you very much. Mark is our guest tonight. My cousin Mark. We'll be getting to him after Elena will tell us about her little segment of what do we even call it?
I don't even know.
Did we come up with the name yet?
No, I just kind of talk.
Well, I thought wasn't it like Elena's self-care?
So here is the segment, Self-Care with Elena.
I don't even know. It just has to do with taking care of yourself in recovery.
Well, tell us about it.
Okay, so this week I want to talk about some things that I've heard in some meetings lately, because I hear a lot of people talk about how they put themselves down what other people say to them. And I've been somebody in the past that has done this too, where I take offense to what people have said to me, whether it be they don't like the color of my hair, which, whatever, they don't like the color of my hair. Or I've had people tell me that I'm fat. Okay, well, you can tell me that I'm fat. It doesn't really matter to me. I don't take criticism from people anymore because that's just something that I've learned to do in order to love myself, to care about myself. If somebody is going to criticize me, I have to look at the deeper picture with this. I have to look at what are they going through and how are they feeling, because it might be something deep inside of them that they're going through. It might be something that's happening in their life.
Right.
So I don't take criticism from people that I would never take advice from.
Oh, that's a good one.
So if somebody's saying something to me and they're being rude or they're being whatever, I have to look at who this person really is. So if Tim was giving me some criticism, I probably would take it because Tim is a really good friend of mine. But if some Joe Blow that I don't really know came up to me and gave me some criticism, I probably wouldn't take it as hard as I would.
Just try to brush it off.
I would just brush it off and I would say, okay, well, that's their thought. That's okay. And I hear a lot of people in meetings lately talk about, well, this person said this about me and it's really hurting my feelings and it's getting me down in the dumps and it makes me think about this time and it makes me want to go out and use. Well, why does it make you want to feel that way? Why? People have to really, really think about this. I had a really good friend message me this week how she was, and I'm sure she might be listening, but she was in the office and throughout the day, something hit her and she felt like she was nothing. She felt like her whole world was over. She felt like
Worthless.
She felt she was worthless. She didn't understand what's going on. And the first thing I told her to do when she texted me, and I said, breathe.
Yeah, I know.
That's all I said to her was breathe. And she goes, thank you for reminding me to do that.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to just stop and breathe, because if you don't, it's just going to keep building up and building up and building up. So this week, I just want to tell everybody, don't listen to everybody else when they criticize. Some people criticize
Or if it's something that hurts their feelings.
because they got nothing else to do. I mean, it just brings us back to high school bullying. Adults are no different than kids in high school. They really aren't.
And what anybody says to us it doesn't hurt our feelings. We choose to get hurt by it too.
Yeah.
Sometimes both what you said, we shared about this a while ago during my tidbits. Sometimes it is easier said than done. Early recovery, I'm sure you weren't able to do what you're able to do now.
Oh, hell no.
You know?
Early in recovery, it was terrible. And I'm coming up on 3 years in a couple months, and it took a long time.
Mm-hmm.
It took a long time for me to get this way, because I had many years before that relapse, and throughout those many years, I never had the recovery that I have now.
Right. Well, and there's some of what you're talking about. Like, I want to touch back on it later, but don't want to dive down this now. I know we're gonna get to our guests here pretty quick, and I know some of the things that we'll end up talking about. I want to touch back on that. I just don't, because I know we could dive into this real deep right now and forget about our guests.
No, I don't want to do that. I want to meet
All
our
right.
guests.
Thank you, Elena. That was a great. That's good advice. Do what you can, basically, to I don't know what, pause and think about where this advice that's hurting your feelings is coming from. Like, maybe that person is dealing with some shit type of deal.
Don't listen to other people's criticism.
Perfect.
Don't, because it's just going to put you down when you don't deserve to be put down.
That's what's worked for Elena. Perfect. Thank you. Elena, thank you.
Yeah.
So, if someone's struggling or hurting, how can they reach out to you?
They can reach me on Facebook, and if you don't know me on Facebook, you can I did put my number in the comments. Otherwise, if you are listening to this podcast, I'm sure there's many of people that listen that know who I am too.
Right. Network. That's what we do here.
Yep.
So, with all of that, we're going to get to our special guest he flew in. I said that earlier. He flew in, and I was like, wait, he drove. I wrote something on Facebook. So, would you like to introduce yourself?
Thanks, Tim. My name is Mark, and I am a grateful recovering alcoholic.
Welcome, Mark. Welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me.
So, how are things going with you, buddy?
You're going pretty good.
Just good, huh?
Well, I took a power nap right now, so I'm still kind of waking up a little.
I know. I got him juiced up. He's got a full-ass cup of coffee, a Red Bull Light, a Red Bull Blueberry, a Canada Dry, 2 waters, and I don't know what's in your special bottle here.
This is water, too.
Sure.
It's water.
Oh, see? AC. I hear it. So, all right. Well, we're going to just hop right into things. First, I want to thank you so much for being on the show, and I'm going to thank you many of times before the show's over. I think I sent you the write-up less than 48 hours ago about what to expect on the show here.
Yeah.
And I think somewhere along those lines you heard me, or you read somewhere like, oh, I'm supposed to have a topic?
Yeah.
So with that said, do you have any topics? Is there anything you'd like to share about or talk about amongst the four of us, like a topic we could talk about or you were passionate about or you want to share about?
Oh, man. You know what? I was just thinking about what she was saying there about criticism and taking criticism. And one of the first things, actually a couple of things that I thought about when she said that is when I first came into the rooms of recovery, the one thing that hit me hard that I still struggle with on a regular basis is is anything that anybody else thinks about me is none of my business, you know? And like you said, Tim, that's a lot easier said than done. But I also go back to my little 3-foot bubble. Well, I guess I call it my little 3 to 6 foot bubble is what I call it. And I always talk about I always do my best. I do my best inside of my 3-foot bubble. I do my best, and I let the universe take care of the rest, you know? And to me, that's about doing the steps and respecting the traditions. And when I go through and I do these steps, which is a blueprint for life for me nowadays, as I go through those and as I clean up my side of the street, and as I go back to all those little sayings I learned in these rooms, you know, the think, and keep practicing the principles of these programs. I'd say these programs or this program that the 12 Steps has brought me to, it carries me to the next moment, whatever that looks like. So, you know, I'm still kind of recombobulating myself right now as we carry on, but I'm sure more things will come to mind as we start the discussions up a little bit further.
Well, I'm already going to dig into you about what you're saying. Now, on the earlier shows, I used to share about that a lot. Tim, stay in your bubble. Now, I said that a lot in earlier recovery because that was something my cousin used to say to me was, or used to, honestly, before I was in recovery, he'd always to me it was joking around, but he'd say, stay out of my bubble. Or you would mention my bubble, this and that, like for it's weird to have a guest, I'm saying my cousin. For Mark in the past, I remember you would, not even passionately, you would honestly say like, it's not in your bubble. Like, you stay in your own bubble. And you believed it. And you still do by the sounds of it.
I do.
And, like, to pick that apart, because I know my mom's listening, and I used to, like, in early recovery, I had an issue with that because I felt that was just, like we've already said, easier said than done. Mm-hmm. Because you would, and I think I came to you with a lot of this stuff. Like, I'd be going through something, and I'd be like, I know I'm supposed to worry about what's in my bubble. But
right.
Anything after that word but, it shouldn't matter, correct?
Absolutely.
Because of exactly the way you just worded it was like, let the universe.
You can let the universe, let God, let whatever it is that you put your trust and your faith in, that's what's going to take care of it. You know?
So is that, all right, I'm just trying to confirm this for other people because I think I have got it, but like is it just me thinking in my head like I am that much more special? If I try to explain how stay out of my bubble, how that doesn't work for me?
Well,
in your opinion, let's say it that way.
So here's the deal: you say, you know, stay out of my bubble.
Or I'm going to stay in my own bubble.
Stay in my own bubble because what anybody else does is none of my business. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I do my best. I like to say God. But I'll tell you why I say the word universe, okay? Mm-hmm. Because it happened for me way back when, and I started working with guys.
How much time do you have, if you don't mind? Recovery, how much?
Tonight?
How much recovery do you
Okay,
do you
my
have?
recovery date is October 1st of 2008. So I got the date's coming up here. I know no fronts or anything like that.
Can't front clean time in this room,
I
bro.
know, man, I know. You know, when I first got into recovery, it was August 1st, but I had a little relapse after about 54 days, and then I came back in, and I was very blessed that I made it back here. But you know, when I first got into recovery, I worked at a residential rehab center down in Phoenix called Cortisone. It's
Called what?
Cortisone.
Okay.
I know, it's really
not cortisone.
No,
Is it a Spanish word?
It is.
Okay.
I worked at Chicanos por la Causa down there in Phoenix, and cortisone means heart.
Okay.
And so when I was working there, I actually wound up sponsoring some guys that went through the program, the rehab center there, and one of them had said that, you know, I couldn't grab onto that God theory that you had there, but that I could trust the universe. The universe I could comprehend. I could grab onto that. It was something that was more powerful than myself. And so then I really started using that, so it didn't freak people out as much. And so I use that a lot.
Saying the universe
Yes.
for a higher power.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. So I do my best, and I let the universe take care of the rest. So, for me, that has it helps ground me back into what I need to take care of. on a daily basis and a moment-by-moment basis. Because typically, and I'll tell you what, and I'll go back to, a perfect example is something like, I don't know, I'll go back to my kids. I had about six years of recovery under my belt, and I moved from Phoenix, about 3.5 hours northeast, to a place called Sholo, Arizona. I moved out of the main area of Arizona, the big city. And what it did for me is it made me learn how to trust the universe even more. And I wound up doing something and getting out of my comfort zone, going to do something that I hadn't done before and getting jobs in different places. And what it taught me more than anything is that I have a certain sense of powerlessness over everything in my life. My life was completely unmanageable, and whenever I think I do have a certain sense of manageability with it, I realize that I don't have jack squat sometimes, man. And the biggest thing that I have, the one thing I have the most power over, is that trust in a higher power, that trust in an entity that's more powerful than I am. And when I put my trust in that, inevitably things just have a way of working themselves out. And so I was talking about my kids primarily because when I wound up moving away from them geographically, I wound up watching them succeed pretty abundantly and
From afar.
from afar.
Okay.
From afar. So it was almost like I was able to take something and take what I talk about in a kind of a metaphorical way that actually came to fruition in a real sense and allowed me to be able to learn how to trust in that higher power even more. And for me, it's about taking care of that 3-foot bubble. And when I take care of that 3-foot bubble, I do my best. I do the next right thing, what I perceive it to be at that given moment in time. And sometimes that means not even doing anything. Because if I always feel like I've got to do something in order for something to succeed, part of that doing can be just that trusting, it can be that mindset, because it starts with my thought process. And so when I'm able to put my thought process in the right place and just let the rest of it go, it's like that prayer that I can put out there and allow it to just dissipate and be able to give it up
And
let
accept
go.
it.
Yes,
For whatever it is.
whatever it is.
So, like, you just talked about, leaving the big city, and going up to Sholo.
Yes.
A side note now is that people, and I just, this is nothing to really do with recovery, but the Sholo, what would you compare that to? Kind of like in northern Minnesota?
Yeah.
Okay, and we're talking about Arizona.
Yes.
See, a lot of people don't understand Arizona's not just all desert.
Right.
Like, this is up north Minnesota, trees and like lakes and stuff, like good shit. Like, I just want that.
Trees.
This is basically what I'm trying to tell you, Lane. Is
That's the way it is in Arizona too, man.
Wow.
Northern Arizona, man. They got hunting and fishing and all that kind of stuff that goes on.
I took a left turn there, but
That's all right.
So the 3-foot bubble, and God, I keep thinking of other things, but 1,000 things while you're talking. This is why I should have pen and paper, but then I sidetrack every conversation. Nope. Who would have thought this 3-foot bubble that, like, when you came up with this, we were going to have a 6-foot bubble?
I know.
And you've already got half of it down.
Right. But I only got it halfway there, right?
Yeah. It's not even a dad joke. It's just like he's, and it's not a physical stay away 3-foot bubble. It's just basically a metaphorically like keep to myself.
Yeah.
All I have control over is number one, right? That's kind of what you're saying.
Yeah.
And with that, it's like I'm trying to dumb down what you just said. I don't need to. You explained it very well. Thank you, Matt. So you shared about like having this basically acceptance of when things are going sideways and having a higher power to lean on.
Yeah, you know what? It's interesting how you say when things are going sideways, but I'll tell you something about me, anyways. When I have stuff go really good, I can get just as bad as when things get really bad.
Explain that. Like, go into
So
detail, please.
I will go into detail because it happens to me a lot when things go really good. I have a certain sense of cockiness or arrogance that can come about, and what I realize is that I can get a little bit snarky, and that arrogance comes out, and then I wind up hurting somebody's feelings.
You mean like I got this? Like,
Yeah.
Like I guess a small example. What do you mean?
Well, you know what? I tell you what. Sometimes, and I'm the type of person that I can, when I get very confident in myself, I can think I'm very cute and coy, and so I will tend to say something very flippant. You know,
Flippant.
flippant. Like I don't know. You know, you're when you're bantering back and forth
Yeah.
with perhaps a brother or a partner or
Okay.
even a close relative, and you just start saying things that you think are very cute. Like I don't know. Let me.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure it happens many times with you, Jim, because I know I've been on the receiving end of that at times. And I mean that in a very sincere manner, where all of a sudden you think that you're having a fun time and you're doing this and you're doing that, and all of a sudden you say something that cuts deep.
Yeah.
And you don't realize it until all of a sudden it comes out of your mouth, and all of a sudden that person that you're looking at, their face drops,
Right.
and then you realize, going, "Holy crap! I just hurt this person's feelings." And many times that can be just as deep as doing something that
When
is-
you're on the bad side of life,
Right.
The sideways says, you know what? Anyway, everyone in this room knows this, and you do know from you hit it on the head with me. Like, I get in the I would say it for me like, oh, I'm in the moment, and I think everyone's on the same. Let's just say the same level wavelength that I'm at, and I start running my gums. That happens it happens a lot, and it's a lesson I've had to learn in recovery.
Yes.
Because I care now. Like before,
yeah.
it was a whole different ball game. I would have kept on going, but like that's something they have to deal with.
Right, you put it back on them instead of taking
Yeah.
ownership of it.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
That's their problem. They received it wrong.
See, he doesn't co-sign bullshit. That's one thing
That's
about
good.
Cuz. But that's what I always share about that too. That's who you got to. I need to surround myself with people like that because I still do, and I do because you just mentioned it. That it's easy to do that. So that's almost as dangerous when you're in the bad times as is in the good times.
Well, the other challenge too is it was interesting because I remember when I first got into recovery, and they always would say that I want to surround myself with these people who are going to call me on my BS. Well, that's all fine and dandy, but I don't know about you. For me, I was in the world of sales for many years, So while I could really be a great salesperson for another individual or a company or whatever, the person I would sell more than anybody else is myself. So I didn't really start to step up in my recovery until I learned how to call myself on my own BS. Because here's the challenge: is like if I'm not buying into taking ownership and cleaning up my side of the street, if I don't think I did anything wrong, I'm not going to do anything to correct it.
Right.
So I'm not going to wind up going through these steps. It's like, okay, well, I don't need to do that step because, hey, I didn't do anything wrong. So until I learned that I needed to take ownership for that, then I wasn't going to be able to do it. Because I was one of those people that if I could take whatever was happening, I could manipulate it so I could tell the story to somebody else, but perhaps I'd leave out a little detail, whether I was voluntarily
Half truths, half
doing it,
measures.
right? Yep. And then I could make this whole story look like one thing to one person, another thing to another person. So in my recovery nowadays, I got that ping pong match going back and forth in my head, and I'll give you a perfect example right now. I'm going through my second divorce in recovery.
Okay.
One of the most intense things I've ever had to do because it's not an amicable one. My first divorce was amicable. Everything was good. I'm still friends with my ex. I'm still friends with my ex-mother-in-law. Now it's a whole different story, man. And so I have to really dig deep because the person I'm divorcing right now is pointing out very vividly how completely insane I am. And so I have to go, oh my gosh, am I really that insane? I have to go to different people that I know are going to give me the real truth here,
There you go.
including myself, which is which way I'm going. So I can go to both ends though, I can play the martyr where I'll beat myself up before you beat me up because I'd rather beat myself up than to have you beat the crap out of me. So I can go to that extreme, or I can go to the other extreme and make things look like I'm just a prince.
So that's kind of one of the first questions I already have written down. You say a lot of things that I just want to pick apart. So we didn't precede our show with what I normally do. Is there any topics you do not want me bringing up? I know too much shit about you. Where
Let's do it, bro. Wave it on in.
all right,
Up,
all right,
I'll
cuz
go downtown, whatever you want to do, bro.
So divorce. No, we're not gonna. It's whatever you bring up, basically. But not even so much the divorce part. But the topic we're talking about prior to that is, you were mentioning like with sales, and you know, I want to surround myself with people that won't co-sign my shit. You mentioned that, you know, you have to believe yourself before you can believe in a sell type of deal, or what you just explained in the example. Do you still feel? How are you going to know though with your own, like, let's just say character defects?
Yes.
This thing was set up to share with someone and help point out our character defects.
Right.
Okay, so
I know.
you see the grin on his face. So, I guess are you able to, from working the steps or on your own without someone else, how do you know where these issues are and where they lie? Is it by a compilation of all these things, or deep down you really do know?
That was totally going to be my question.
Like, do you have, there's certain family members we both know you could call and they're going to say, no, Marky, you are a good guy. And,
Yeah, I know,
or,
bro.
but
I know. That's why this has been the most challenging time.
This is the first time I've heard you say anything about her or someone saying that you're completely insane or da da da. I don't see that, but
Right.
maybe I'm biased.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm way biased.
Yeah. Well, you probably are a little bit biased. You're my cousin, bro.
I know.
But,
You
so-
fuck with my cousin. No, I'm joking. But Siri, on that
So
question,
here's-
how do you? Yeah.
So that's why this has been the most challenging time in my recovery. Now, I'll be honest. I never once thought about drinking or using or anything like that. But here's the thing: is that they talk about emotional sobriety. Right?
Emotional relapses.
Well, and there you go.
You taught me about that
Right.
about 2.5
Dude,
years
and
ago.
And that's freaking brutal, dude.
It's almost worse than-
you
yeah.
feel hungover. You do. You feel physically beat up. You may not have drank. You may not have used, but man, you have that internal crappy feeling that it doesn't feel right. And so. While I don't chase after that drink as much anymore, I do chase after wanting to feel good. I want to feel good about myself. I
Right.
want to feel like I'm doing the right thing. And so the biggest struggle that I've been going through is, holy crap, am I really this bad of a person? Did I really do all these things? And so you bring up an interesting point, because when you go through those steps, and you make the list and you go through 5, 6, 7, and you talk to it talks about talking to another human being, right? It doesn't
Right.
say you have to talk to another alcoholic.
No, just
right?
another, yeah.
It says you need to talk to another human being.
Mm-hmm.
So when I first got in, I was going through a program down in the valley, and it was called the LEAP program. Best thing I ever did. And then one of the counselors there had told me, he said, it's real interesting that they tell you to go find, 5 people that you trust, right? Well, when you're in a house full of other addicts, and you go, okay, well, I got my 5 addict friends here. You got to remember, you got 5 sick people that you're asking these questions to. So what I've learned is that I got to find not only people that I trust, but maybe people that I know may not be too fond of me.
Right.
And maybe people that I have a different viewpoint from, and start asking them some hard questions, and start explaining to them, and start listening to what they had to say. I'm sorry. Elena. So you were talking about receiving criticism.
Yeah.
I
knew we'd be able to get back to what you were saying. And this is
So here's the deal with me is it's like sometimes what people say really hurts my feelings, but I always, I've also heard that sometimes there's always a little bit of truth in what people may say. Now, they could be completely whacked or off base,
Yep.
but I still have to take into consideration. And you're right. You say, okay, where are they coming from? What's going on with them?
Yeah.
And regardless of what's going on with them, I have to look at myself and go, okay, they're telling me that I'm this, this, and this. Where is this coming from? And what is my role in what they're perceiving of what I'm going through as well? And so that's where digging deep, not only within me, comes into play, but also it's kind of figuring out the dynamics of other people that I'm asking these questions of. And I know this, so I make things way more complicated than it needs to be. I don't know about you, but when I first came to these rooms, I looked at the 12 steps. I said, oh shit, I need at least 100 steps for me to get better, even in this first day. It's like, no way is this going to help me. But then that's what made this so perfect, because it made me realize, dude, you got to take a step back and follow this little blueprint. And so I kind of go through that fifth step with different human beings and different people I trust, not only family members, but other people. And I would get people who would be former partners and stuff who would get upset with me, and I think they still do, like, well, why are you even asking me this question? You go ask your brother, you go ask this person, you're not listening to anything I say. It's like, sorry, that's kind of what I do. I go and ask people because I can't trust myself with my own judgment. So I go and I try to find some other people. Sometimes I'll even grab somebody who may not know a lot about me and just
Then you're just getting their viewpoint, just
Yeah.
a bold face. Their.
I work at a hospice organization.
I was gonna
So
bring this up too. Your job.
I'm very blessed. I work with bereavement program at a hospice organization.
What is your title, or what do you do? What's your title?
I'm a bereavement coordinator and counselor at a hospice, and so basically I will work with families before and during and after the passing of one of the patients.
Which, from the outside looking in or hearing that job, like I've told people, like when they said, my cousin, yeah, he's in recovery, dozen or so years, and he works with families that are dealing with someone dying. That's like always what I say. It's a heavy job.
It can be, yes.
Definitely, like, even losing your own, like, just like last month, I lost my nephew who was 14 to a severe asthma attack.
Oh, dude.
Yeah, so like I actually chose to go to the service and all that stuff, but I went sober with my girlfriend, like to help me stay sober.
Dude.
It was the first time in like over 10 years all my mom's kids were together for an event like that. Wow. Yeah.
So like, I guess I didn't know that. I'm sorry to hear that, Matt. Like,
That's tough stuff, man.
but this is what you do, right? Like you're with a family. Let's just use Matt's example.
Yeah.
14-year-old kid, asthma attack, dies. That's so unexpected.
Yeah, that's intense, man. How long you got? 9 months?
Yeah, it'll be 9 months at the end of the month.
And you stayed sober through that?
Yep.
Dude, that's flipping amazing. That's a freaking miracle, dude.
Yeah, 'cause, like,
I swear to God, man, that's awesome. That's
because any other
inspirational
time I
stuff.
lost a loved one, I'd always go and use. But like, my thought was the process, like it's my twin brother's stepson, my step nephew. Like it'd be disrespectful for me to go there high
Right on,
or
dude.
under the influence of any type of drug or alcohol.
That's a freaking miracle right
Right,
there,
yeah.
bro, man. That's
Yeah.
where I get my inspiration. I'm telling you right now, people go, how do you do this type of stuff, man? It's because I hear stuff like that, and I hear stuff like that when I work with different family members. And oh man, what a blessing that you're able to be there for them, though.
Yeah.
I mean, that's freaking awesome, man.
So, Mark, with recovery, now correlating recovery with your job.
Yes.
Now, I can only imagine it's hard not to, not. This isn't the right way to say it. Make it personal, but with your job, how. And we don't have to go because that's not just recovery, but in correlation with your recovery and day after day, and I don't imagine it's just death and doom and dark every day of your job.
Oh man, no, not at all.
But how is that? Where does that line come in, and how do you deal with that? Reaching out to sponsors, what have you, other coworkers, when you're dealing with families where kids are dying or unexpected deaths. Some of this has got to get pretty heavy. How does that, or is it just mundane, or?
No, not at all. Actually, dude, I feel very blessed. I think it's about my belief system that comes with death. When I say trust in God, trust in the universe, I still go back to the basics, man. You do your best, and you let the universe take care of the rest. I will take care.
How long did it take for you to get to that conclusion, though? I'm being honest. I know.
Are you talking about like in recovery from the very start of what I've
Just
been doing, or
to
what?
have to accept what you're really saying right now.
So
That believe in the unit. You know what I'm asking?
Because I'll tell you, there's a couple of things that came up with that. I remember when I went in for a job interview, it was after a couple of years of just coming to meetings. You know what I mean? You go to your meetings, you get your sponsor, you do the. I'm going to tell you everything. One of the best things that I heard when I went to my first home group was, they say everything you ever needed to learn in the rooms of recovery, you can learn in your first 90 days. You go to do 90 meetings in 90 days. There's a book way back when, the author was Robert Fulghum, I think it was. And it was called Everything I Ever Needed to Know I Learned in Kindergarten. And so I think about that in recovery, 90 meetings in 90 days. You get a sponsor, you read the big book, do the 164 pages, and if you like, go and read those stories too, because those are pretty phenomenal too. but and one of the things that one of the old timers would say, you read the book, you get a sponsor, you work the steps, you do service work, and oh, by the way, don't drink or use in between meetings. You got a 100% chance of being successful by doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
so,
It's the cure to cancer of this form.
right,
Yep.
of this ailment.
Of this
that we've
ailment,
got.
yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So one of the things that I first discovered is when I was a few years into it was I was sitting at a job interview, and it was the first job interview I got when I finally had gotten my degree, and I was sitting there, and what my future supervisor asked me was, okay, what if you disagree with what I have to say about what I want you to do? How are you going to respond to
During the interview, she asked you
Yes,
this?
she did. And I said to her, see if this sounds familiar. I said, well, I can disagree with something, but eventually I have to accept it. Otherwise, I'm not going to be able to move forward with it. And so I said, I can learn to accept something and still disagree with you and still be able to work for you, because I think that's what the lines of the communication are open. And she hired me after that. But that was from the rooms of recovery, right?
Right.
So everything I ever really needed to learn when I got into recovery, so that's when I started to trust the universe.
That kind of
because
solidified.
that stuff. And so after I got my first year, here's another example. I'll tell you what, my first year was absolutely miserable. I was white knuckling it, but I did everything by the book, man. I was the poster child, and I was just getting pissed. I had 9 months under my belt. I got back together with my family, but I was so unhappy. I was so miserable, and I just prayed for happiness. I said, I just want to be happy. And I remember that I used to go to a Thursday night stag meeting, and at that one, at the men's group.
That's a stag meeting, is men's group.
Right. They didn't hand out chips until you get 1 year. And basically this old timer was there, and there was somebody that went out and they died in the park not far away from where the halfway house that I was staying at. It was Crossroads West down there in Phoenix. And he was in tears, and he said, just get your 1 year chip. Get that damn first chip. And so I said, fine. I was about 6 or 7 months, sober. And I said, fine, I'm going to get that chip. I'm going to get that chip, and I'm going to go back out, because I'm going to show those bastards that I gave it a shot and that I tried it their way, because that's the way I lived my life. I lived my life that I would always do whatever anybody told me to do, and when they were wrong, I went out and I did it my way, so that
I'll
I
show
could tell
you.
them. I could tell them, and I proved them, because I said, well, if I wasn't meant to drink, I would go into the liquor store, and I said, if I was meant to drink, there wouldn't be any liquor in here for me to drink, so I'm gonna go in here. There's liquor in here for me to get, so I'm good to go, And that was my attitude, and so I was bound and determined. And you know what? Lo and behold, I had that 1 year. I got that 1 year, and frickin' the weight of the world was lifted off my shoulders. I'll tell you the story real quick too. I don't mean to ramble on, but
No, I want that.
So I went there. I have not told too many people this story. So I went to there's QTs down there. I don't know if they have QTs up there. but
Quick
they're
trips.
Quick trips.
Yeah.
There you go.
They're common.
I went to a QT, and it was right after I got I got a 1 year chip, and there was this woman who had come up, and she was hammered, and she was drugged out, and I remember she had blue or green eyes. She was an African American woman who had green eyes, and she was just hammered. And I go, oh, okay. She came up to me, and she was slurring, and she goes, can you give me a ride? And I thought, okay, in my mind, I'm going, oh, this could be kind of an interesting thing. But I was kind of riding from the meeting. I had my 1 year chip, right? And so she goes, can you give me a ride over here? And I go, okay, sure. And of course, I know in my still alcoholic mind, I was thinking, hey, man, maybe I'll get lucky or something like that, right?
Yeah.
No, it's really sick, but that's the way I was still thinking. And I still
Of
think that way
course.
sometimes. But
Of course.
So I took her to wherever she wanted me, and then all of a sudden I was led on this wild goose chase for like 2 or 3 hours. She wanted me to bring her to one place, and then I had to go to another place, and she was leading me all over just to get her home. And after I dropped her off, I just thought, I am so glad that that's not me. And that's when I knew this frickin' program worked. And that's when I started to trust the universe into doing what everybody in these rooms taught me to do. And that's just to keep coming back, go to the meetings, keep practicing these steps, practice the principles of the program.
Could you correlate that or align that with a newcomer? Would you say like that's one of the benefits of why newcomers are so important? Like looking at someone like that
Yeah.
and saying, okay, like there's so many, I always say the same way, and I hate using that word facets, but there's so many facets to a newcomer. And like one of them is look at what you just saw.
Yeah.
Someone just out of their gourd, just driving around, just that's a newcomer.
Right. Well, and I'll tell you another story. So when I went to go, I went to from the halfway house of Crossroads, I went to a 3/4 house. That was the Leap house. There was this old, he had about 12 years, 13 years under his belt. He owned the house. His name was Tom Brown. I didn't think he'd be okay with me telling you this. I'm probably promoting it.
Tom B.
Tom
Okay.
B. Okay, sorry.
Okay.
And so
You did read my write-up, right?
I'm
About
telling you, I'm going to break more rules here. I'm telling
that's
you
okay.
right
We're
now,
addicts
man.
and alcoholics. We
So,
do
I'm
break
just giving
rules.
you a heads up. That's going to happen. So he came up to me, and he's from New York. He was a fireman from New York, and he had that accent. I can do a horrible New York accent, and I won't do it right.
No,
so
do
I'm
it.
gonna get
Let's
Mark.
try.
So he came with Mark. Let me tell you something, Mark. He goes, what I want you to do when you go to a meeting, you go to this meeting, go to every meeting, you go up, you see the newcomer, you can tell the newcomer because he's got that look in his eyes, that look of hopelessness and despair and helpless, you know. And he goes, and I want you to go up to him, I want you to shake him, and I want you to look him in the eye, and you say, welcome, you're in the right place. And you turn around, and you just thank God that that's not you. You just be so grateful for that. I go,
Hey.
dude, that's freaking brutal, man. But then, as I started doing it, I'm going, oh, I get it, man. I get it because I was grateful that I was, not that I wasn't necessarily, that I'm not them, but that I was just me, where I was at. I was sober for that moment. And I wasn't going through that pain and despair at that moment in time.
Right.
And I don't mean that in a brutal way. I mean it more in that compassionate kind of way, kind of like, dude, there's hope, you know? And that just by being there and knowing that pain and despair, because I felt it. I was there. And that's what I think he meant. It's like, you know, just remember that pain, remember that despair,
Right.
but also be there for hope. You know, one of the things before my mom passed away, 2012, I'll always remember this too. We read out of a book. She wanted me to read it at her
I remember.
service.
Yep.
And I'm going to get choked up.
That's all good. We cry together, bro.
But I read something out of a book, and I just asked my mom what she wanted me to convey, and in her voice that she just kind of breathed out, she just said, hope, you know, hope. And so to me, that's what it's about with a newcomer, is to be able to offer them some kind of hope. Because I think before I got to these rooms, I freaking ran out of hope. If I had hope, I wouldn't have crawled through on my knees.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
I didn't come through the doors with any hope at all. I just came in going, all right, I don't have the freaking guts to kill myself, man. you
That's
know?
about it.
And so I didn't know what to do anymore, you know?
Right. Come in here with your hands out like, okay, what?
I'll do anything. you
But
want
there
me
was
to do.
there was that point where you're like, I'm going to show you guys.
I know.
After I didn't know that the first year was that miserable.
Yeah, it was horrible.
And not to backtrack from where we're at, but I do have to ask you something.
Sure.
Hope, I didn't know that. You never told me about that with Auntie. So, all right. What was the thing? All right. So you said all this for that first year. I didn't know that it was miserable. Well, it was such a tough time for you. Emotionally, mentally, spiritually, whatever it was tough. It sounds like. What was it was it just that moment of getting that chip the weight lifted, or what was it? Was
had-
it
you know what,
gearing
it
up
was
that
like-
last month?
It was, well, I mean, I tell you what, man.
Because we
I
did
would-
kind of jump from like things were miserable to this old guy said just get a year, and then the weight lifted. Like
It did, dude. It did. It was
so,
like
it was
that,
miserable
dude.
to 364 days, and on that 65th, it just was.
Swear to God, man, it was like that. All of a sudden, so in a lot of the meetings down there in Phoenix was like, all right, everybody who has a year or more, raise your hand.
Yeah, we do that. Yeah,
And so I got to raise my freaking hand.
right.
And so, and I just thought. So when I it took me 26 years to get to be where I was, but see, I was one of those garden variety drugs, addicts, but I was always just like 1 degree off, and we talked about this, you know what I mean? So my rudder was off just a little bit, So when I crossed over lines, it's like I may go extreme one time, but then I always pulled it back, so it's just my rudder was always
Not
off
all
just a
in.
little
Not
bit.
all in.
Just and then after 26 years, I look back and I said, holy shit, I'm like 3,000 miles off course here, All of a sudden, my family's not here, I'm living out of my car or out of the hotel or whatever, and all of a sudden I just go, what the hell happened? Well, that's kind of what happened to me in that first year of recovery. It's like I did everything that I was supposed to do. I actually got the family back, and, until I look back, until I got that 1 year chip, and I look back and I go, oh, holy shit, what the hell just happened,
Right.
And then all of a sudden I realized it's like, oh, man, I've been sober for a year, and I realized I had nothing to do with it. I really didn't. I mean, I did what they told me to do. And so part of me felt a little bit like a fraud, but part of me felt like, holy crap, I got to keep doing this.
I hear that a lot. I hear exactly what you're saying. Like some people feel like I'm getting away with something here.
Yeah, it's a
like
trip.
this new life. Would it be safe to say like for 26, it took you 26 years to like lose all that shit, but it took you a year of hard work to get it back?
It didn't come back. I mean, yeah, I know what you're saying, bro. I'm going to contradict you.
That's
because
good. That's what we.
it is.
Yeah, that's what we need.
So I went to one meeting where the lady had 30 years of recovery under her belt, and she went out for 30 days, and she said she lost everything in that 30 days.
In 30 days.
Yes, in 30 days.
Wow.
So, so thinking that I got everything back in 1 year, I think after I got back, and had a little bit of sanity after 1 year, I still felt like I had so much further to go. I'll tell you when I thought I did make it though was after I had 10 years. When I got 10 years, bro.
I gave you your 10-year chip.
I know you gave me my 10-year
We were going to
chip,
touch
bro.
on that after the 10 o'clock hour.
So, but yeah, dude, that's when I thought I made it, and that's when it really started to hit the fan, though, dude. That's when things got really freaking brutal. So-
Brutal. I love it.
But yeah, man. I mean, the 1 year, I think I just felt like, I think after that 1 year was when I finally got to the point where I didn't feel like I was going to drink, because I really did feel like at any given moment throughout that first year, it's just like, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? Why? I got stuff back. I got the family back. I never got my happiness.
Can you put
back.
your finger on what it was like in that year? Why did it take so long, or what were you just
Well,
bitter, or
so-
just
no? You
so
know
many
what,
years
though?
of doing it your way, or what?
Here's the thing, though, and I think they talk about the obsession of the mind, the allergy of the body, all that stuff. So I really honestly believe that there's that physical ailment. What I learned about when I went through recovery too was PAWS, post-acute withdrawal syndrome, right?
Right.
You went through rehab, right?
Oh,
to
yeah.
talk about that there. So I believe that had a lot to do with it. I think I just had, and I'll tell you the other thing. I found out when about 18 months into my recovery that I had sleep apnea, which means that I just thought that it was a byproduct of the drugs I was doing.
For so long.
That
you know?
I kept waking up in the middle of the night. It's like, oh,
Ah!
shit, there's a residual freebie of meth going through my system that I had no idea, So
I get. Well,
I just thought that was part of it, dude. Trying to get
that's
clean,
fucking
you know?
hilarious.
I think
never
everybody
knew
thinks
that.
that in the first 18 months. I think everybody thinks about that. Like, they don't know if they have sleep apnea or not until they go get the test done.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of things like that. You could say like a lot of our health issues. I know that firsthand. Like, a lot of addicts or alcoholics. We didn't take care of ourselves
Yeah.
in a lot of different forms. And then all of a sudden, 18 months in, I didn't know this.
Yeah, well, you know what what I didn't realize is that over-the-counter medication actually works.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like acetaminophen and stuff like that.
Yeah, Advil,
I mean,
Tylenol.
it actually
Ibuprofen.
works
I
when you
didn't
use
need
it
7
appropriately.
Percocets for
Well,
my.
Yeah, dude.
It's weird.
It's like,
Yeah.
like
This
how
migraine, I didn't need all those Vicodin.
Right.
And I could sleep with just like getting up at a good time and eating healthy. It's weird. I didn't need 9 Xanax.
Oh my goodness.
Well, you're right.
Yeah.
So. that
So
was
we do this thing at this hour now. We just like cut away.
Okay.
Oh, is it about that time?
It's about that time.
It's about that time.
Yep.
Oh,
Yes, it is,
so
Elena.
now
It's about that
for
time.
some tidbits with Timmy.
Uh-oh.
Oh, you haven't been able to hear for the last 2 weeks. Yeah.
Tidbits with
Tidbits with
Timmy.
Timmy.
Okay.
So, yeah. I mean, you're gonna spit water out of your nose because you're gonna be laughing so hard. But so this week we're gonna open up with a few things, like the one about. Did you hear about that restaurant on the moon?
Oh God.
There's great food, but no atmosphere.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my.
Well, what do you call a fake noodle? An impasta. How many apples grow on a tree? All of them.
Oh, dude.
All right. Well, you know what? I'm going to save the best one for after my tidbits. So, page 417, we're going to talk about this week, which is acceptance. It's going to be brief. Oh, shoot. You know what? Have them go. Oh, show them up by the front desk. You're good. They're doing the floor over there, and me and Elena will talk for a little bit here. This acceptance thing. It's been 4 years, and I'm still trying to figure it out. Elena, you can talk with me during this time. I don't need it to be just him time.
Absolutely.
And I think a lot of this has to go with what you shared about during your little segment earlier on was like acceptance is, I could probably quote the whole thing, but it's the answer to all my problems today. And it goes hand in hand with like easier said than done, one of those statements. But at the end of the day, when I can accept that someone's going to do what they're going to do and I have no control over that and I just kind of have to accept that, it makes my life 10 times easier. Like if someone, if somebody chooses to drink who shouldn't be drinking, I only can accept that. Like I can't do anything else about that. If someone wants to do something that I know is unhealthy, or if someone wants to criticize me and it's going to hurt my feelings, like I can't do anything about that. I have to accept that. Like that's the answer to my problems today. What I can do is change me. That's who I have control over. Last week I talked about like we are the power of our own happiness. Well, I believe it's the exact same with this. Like I am the only one who's in control of me. I'm the one who can pull myself out of my own shit. It might take some work, but I'm the one who can do it. So acceptance is the thing that I just would say is real important in my recovery, and I'm working on it still today. A lot of acceptance.
You know what's probably helped me the most this round of recovery is my sponsor at the beginning is every time I would call her to talk to her about something that was going on in my life, she would tell me, I think you need to read Acceptance is the Answer.
Yeah.
You know how many times I've read that story?
Yeah, page 417.
You know how many times I have read that story, Tim?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I think I have it highlighted like crazy, and it's different highlighter because every single time you read something that you didn't read the first time. It's crazy how that happens. You can read the big book a million times, and I've read it a million times in the last 24 years. You can read it and read it and read it, and you will always read something new when you go and you read it again.
Yep.
Or there's a different meaning to a different sentence, to the same sentence that you've read a million times.
Right.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
But
because
my
we're
sponsor
always
and I-
learning something new from each side. Every time we read something, we're always learning something new from each story.
Yeah, and when it comes to that story, I mean, that is one of the best stories in that book.
is.
There's a lot of good stories, but that's one of the best.
Well, it's not even really
It's not really
it's
a
part.
story,
It's in
but
the midst of a story, I believe. But
Yes.
417, it's just I don't know. What do they call it? The acceptance prayer, the acceptance statement. It's 417, and it's about. I think it's 2 paragraphs. It's
No, that's
Actually
in the
goes through a
that's
couple
in the
of
very
pages,
back.
it's-
Acceptance
yeah.
is the answer is the story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. It's just,
I'm talking about page 417,
Right,
where it
417,
says
there's a
acceptance
paragraph.
is the answer to all
Right,
my
right.
problems today.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
that's just like two
basically, and it
paragraphs.
How
finishes.
long you read
That's
it.
like five. That's
Hey.
like 5 paragraphs in the
Yep.
very back of the book.
Yeah.
The end of it is talking about things won't change until I change.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Okay?
And that you're not the director? Or
I'm not the director of my own play.
Nope.
I'm the one who can change my life. So that was it. Acceptance.
I have a quick question. So you said you got 3 years, right?
Oh, hold your question till right after this. I'm going to just
Okay,
wrap it
I'm
up.
sorry.
No, hold that though, because it's alcoholic addicts. So we're going to end this with
Dot, dot, dot.
what did the grape do when he got stepped on? He let out a whine.
God, Tim.
Yeah, and that was tidbits with me. All right, what was your question to Elena?
Thanks, Tim.
So I have a question, Elena. You said you've got almost 3 years. You got 3 years?
I'll have 3 years on January 5th.
Oh wow, right on. But you mentioned 24 years of reading the big book.
Yeah, I've been in the program since 1996.
Okay. So what's your longest stint of
I had 13
consecutive?
years.
Wow.
So, when I first came into the program, so I didn't. It's kind of weird. I know I'm an alcoholic, and I didn't recognize myself as an alcoholic till about 5 years ago. When I came into the program, as a meth addict.
Yeah.
And I went to treatment back when I was like 15 years old, stayed clean for a while, went back out, and then I stopped smoking meth and doing drugs back in 2005, and I haven't touched them since. But then I started drinking about 5 years ago.
Gotcha.
So then I came back in the program, and I just started my date all over again.
Wow. Good for you.
Yep.
That's flipping awesome.
Yep.
Love to hear it. A lot of my story and yours as well. That's
It's crazy, and it's crazy because, like, if I would have, and it was like life happened. There was death. There was a significant other leaving. Like, it was everything that hit me all at once that made my life turn around. And if I would have actually been working the steps that I had learned throughout those 13 years and doing the things that I was supposed to be doing and going to meetings and stuff like that, I would have had the tools, and I probably wouldn't have done what I did, and I'd still have my time. But I'm kind of glad and grateful that I did, because I've changed so much in the last 2.5 years that I wouldn't want to go back.
Yeah.
Because there's so much growth in just the things that I've done.
It brought you
So
to where
much
you're at today. I mean, that's awesome.
It did. And like when I like that you talked about that you work with hospice. When I quit doing drugs back in 2005, I put myself through nursing school.
Right on.
And because
Successfully.
I was a CNA for a very long time.
Wow, right
and I worked
on.
hospice and I did long-term care and all that stuff. And I was like, you know what, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to go all in. So I put myself through nursing school. I worked all night long,
Yeah.
went to school all day, raised 2 kids, like
amazing.
for 2 years. And then I was like, I'm going to keep doing this. And I've done nursing homes and hospitals and
For
hospice, and
you. That's
it's
beautiful.
caring for people,
Yeah. Helping others.
helping others.
Yeah.
Now I have to learn how to help myself, though, because I am a
Right.
big stickler on helping others before I help myself.
Ah.
And that's the biggest thing in this program now, is that I have to learn how to help myself so that way I can still help others.
The old airplane going down, you got to put the oxygen mask on yourself, otherwise you're not going to be able to help anybody else.
Yep.
That's a great analogy to this.
Definitely is. 'Cause, like my counselor, I got my outpatient. Says like for my recovery to focus on myself and not anybody else around me.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
And that's why I
it's
do a lot
great.
of things with the year at 2218 because it's for me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the other people comes second to that. Even my relationship comes second to my recovery. Right
Did you
now.
see what Cuz was doing?
That's your 3-foot bubble, dude. That's
Yep.
exactly what that means. You
Yep.
take care of yourself, and all that stuff works itself
He's
out,
making
man.
it pretty, like right now.
Yeah.
But there's gonna be the time where if you keep hearing, you're stay in your 3-foot bubble until you're healthy enough to hear it. Sometimes it can get a little daunting or tough, but until once you accept it and understand it, for certain people, let's just say for me,
For certain people,
let's just say for me, it was.
But also part of the challenge is, when you want to help others, Elena, like what you're saying too, is sometimes we get so caught up that we forget about our own self-care.
Yes.
And self-care is so critical. I'm at hospice, and I talk to our staff members. I talk to caregivers. I mean, you got to take care of yourself before you can take care of anybody else. And so many times we feel like we're giving a piece of ourselves away when we're helping others. and we feel like we're doing it in good faith because, especially as somebody in recovery, you go, okay, well, helping others is a part of the program, but there's that fine line, am I
There
helping,
is.
Yes, there
if
is.
I'm helping somebody else so much that I'm giving myself away in the process, then you're losing it. There's an author out there who talked about how, let me see if I can get this phrase right. He said, if I betray myself in the process of not betraying another, that is the greatest betrayal of all.
Exactly.
So I talk about that a lot in recovery because when I first came into recovery, I was a big giver. Like I would give to
Yeah.
all of my friends because
Yeah.
I thought that if I gave, that everybody would always be there for me.
Right.
And as time went
yeah,
by,
yeah.
I realized that it wasn't. So and then I realized that I wasn't doing enough for myself, and I wasn't
Yeah.
doing enough for myself. And then
There's a lot
now-
of different levels to that.
Yep.
And now, as in recovery, I still give,
Right.
but I've learned how
Boundaries?
the boundaries.
Right.
Yep.
Well,
I have big boundaries.
And what is
Yeah.
your expectation when you're giving too? So to me, that's part of that. That's part of that 3-foot bubble too. It's
Yep.
like, okay, I'm going to give to you here, and then I let the rest go. That's the universe. Now it's the universe, and so that's where that give and take comes in, right?
He worded it better, but
Yeah.
that's exactly what I was talking about before the show when I was saying about like when we start putting expectations on things, I start putting expectations on things, I'm almost setting myself up for some heartache down the road if it's not reasonable. What I'm saying, it goes with what Mark's sharing about, what you shared about, but you know what, we keep talking about bubbles. Speaking of that, one of our biggest
Yeah,
supporters,
what
we
is
have a
the bubble
question.
question?
Christy, she's checked. She's one of our biggest supporters on this shit. Thanks,
She
cousin.
is.
That's another one of my cousins, and I love you, babe. Thank you for checking in. And Teresa says hi. A lot of people are checking in. Sorry if I don't get to you. It is this: is the balance difficult in recovery to stay in your bubble, but also holding each other accountable?
Did she say is it difficult?
Is the balance difficult in recovery to stay in your bubble, but also holding each other accountable? She put it in quotes. That's why I did the bunny ears.
So there was a guy back in the NA program, and he talked about harmony as opposed to balance. Because when people think about balance, they almost think about equal, equality. Okay, I'm going to balance things out, work and play and all these other things. And so what he talked about, and this was what I like about the analogy, is that, harmony is kind of like keeping yourself in balance, but it's different every day. Some days I may need to go to 3 flipping meetings.
Yeah, exactly.
And other days, sometimes I can go, 5 days. I try to get to meetings on the weekend. Some days I may need to talk to 5 different alcoholics to try and get some feedback on what's going on in my life. Other days, sometimes I need some music in my life. I want to go to a movie. I want to do this. So to me, it's, and you talk about accountability, I think that's interesting because I tell you what, when I'm going through things like a divorce, sometimes I make plans with people, or sometimes I do things to keep myself accountable, and that's what I mean about being able to call myself on my own BS. Sometimes I'll make plans and I do things with intent, and I talk about that. I talk about that with my hospice people too. Is that when things come up that that you're going to get triggered by, is that maybe you need to start planning things with intent. And to me, planning things with intent is about being accountable for yourself.
Right.
So, like, if I'm going to go to a funeral, I am going to go make sure that I'm going to go to a meeting before the funeral, and I'm going to go to the funeral. I'm going
Right.
to have an out for if I need to talk to somebody in the middle of that, if I'm going to get trouble, and I'm going to go to another meeting after the funeral. And I may even plan one later on that night, know? So you kind of put yourself in a position of accountability, but you're the one that's responsible for that, right? I'm the one he's the only one that's going to be responsible. Now, I may have a sponsor who may say, hey man, are you sandwiching your event? Are you doing this? Are you doing that? And to me, call it balancing things, or for me, it's about harmony, because I guess when I view things as harmony, it's something that can be, I view it as a different way to approach it as opposed to the balance. Balancing something seems like work.
Yeah.
Harmony is something that brings joy to my life.
Yeah.
So I'm going to try to plan with intent to create that harmony, however that seems to look at that moment, you know?
Right. That sounds well put. That sounds well put. No.
Sometimes it's just verbiage and, you know, maybe rainbows and unicorns, but. You know,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
our
but
goal sometimes, but-
thank you, Christy, for that question. I appreciate it. I have another question for you that came in text message from Anonymous. You identified as an alcoholic, and with that said, we heard you say something about meth and this and that. How has your recovery road looked like, i.e., CMA, NA, AA? I will paraphrase that. I think you already got it, but you did identify as an alcoholic.
I did.
I think out of respect for maybe the club you're in or thinking this was
Absolutely.
Alcoholics Anonymous.
Yeah.
We just shared about this, but explain your view on, let's say, singleness of purpose, clarity statement, CMA, and what your road to recoveries looked like.
So I am a garbage pit, and I remember I remember when I first came in. Actually, my sponsor who took me through the steps, he had a sponsor that told me he shouldn't even touch me because I was a meth head, and but he actually,
Wait, who said that? Your AA sponsor?
Yes.
Okay. Wow. Yeah.
But it was funny because he was a cokehead, but he practiced the principles of the program, you know, and so it's interesting because for me, when I came into the program, I had to, and we've talked about this, I wanted to learn how to respect the rules of every meeting. I mean, I was a garbage pit, so I went to all the anonymous.
Right.
And my sponsor at the time, who took me through the steps, said, "You need that." He was from New York as well.
Yeah.
You
Let's
need-
hear it.
You need that validation. You know, you need that. I know that's not the best New York accent. but
Hey,
I thought
you
could
need
do
that
Forget
validation.
about it. You get your validation wherever you get it.
Yeah.
You got it? And
Yeah, son. Yeah, son.
Dude, I went and I made sure that I had a home group that gave away AA chips every month. Yay me. And then I went to the CMA meetings, and I went to the CA meetings, and I went to the MA meetings. That's Marijuana Anonymous. I even went to an HA meeting.
Heroin Anonymous.
Yep.
Yep.
And I tell you,
That wasn't even your jam.
Did you ever go to an SA meeting?
Sex Anonymous.
I did not, but I probably should have.
Well, yes, you should have, Mark.
Concede to that,
I know my
okay?
cousin, and you
know.
probably should
Yes,
have.
I know, I am aware. I tell you, I tell you what, the HA one was an eye opener for me, and I'm looking around, and that was about 10 years ago that I went to HA, but there were all these young kids in there.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
sad. And
And
It's
they
sad.
were good-looking kids. I'm looking around because I should have been an essay, but so I'm looking around and I'm thinking, how can these kids stay clean? I mean, holy crap, they hadn't been beat up. I mean, I'm used to going to these meetings with NA and stuff where people have, I mean, all their teeth are gone and
Right.
Yep.
I mean, they're wounded physically, emotionally, and it just beat the crap. And so,
we just had a terrible joke about NA last week, but go ahead.
okay, well now I got to hear it.
No,
You
I
can't
don't.
just say
Tim,
that.
Do you
Yeah,
remember
I-
what Tad said? It was an NA joke. It was terrible.
Yeah, it was.
It was the front row of an NA, or no. Oops, that was the punchline. What has 20 arms and 5 teeth?
The front row of an NA.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
terrible. And he knows I'm an NA, like that's my
Oh,
jam.
yeah.
It was a shot at me, but it was
gotcha.
funny. It was funny.
No, that was a CMA joke. CMA joke.
It's not funny.
Okay, CMA, whatever. Hey, if we can't laugh in our recovery, you know,
Yeah.
but there we go.
One of the
There
best-
we go.
I'm-
I'm over here assuming I'm on
so-
this.
So I'm going to tell you, when I was in the Valley, I loved being in the Valley because I could get to a meeting. Valley is Phoenix.
There
by
was
the way.
decent meetings when there was a lot there.
Yeah, I could get to a meeting from 5 a.m. till midnight, anywhere around town. And one of the best stag meetings, all men's meeting,
meetings,
was
yeah.
an NA meeting that I went to on Thursday nights at the Harvest Church over there on the west side. And it was cool.
at the Harvest Church. Okay.
because yeah. And the women, you'd have couples that would go there and they'd go into their respective meetings. So,
Oh.
But there were, at that NA meeting, there were a lot of guys there that that were raised in AA in California. So these guys were going to AA meetings when NA wasn't even around. And they had double
Oh.
digits, because NA started up in what, like the 80s or whatever?
60
68 years ago, NA. 68 years ago it started.
out of New York.
How many years?
68.
Okay, but I'm talking about like in like California.
Certain
and the
states,
Valley.
yeah, you're right.
Certain
Maybe
states,
it
yeah.
wasn't. There
Like,
wasn't available
well,
meetings.
Let me rephrase that. They said that the closest 12-step meeting they could get to was an AA meeting, like 100 miles away.
Right,
They got
right.
ostracized.
Well, that's like, yeah, you're right about that.
Yep.
The old time AA. But okay, so
So back to that question. I was a garbage pit. I went to all the anonymouses. I was a part of all of that. But what I learned and why I'm glad that my guy took me through the steps was that for me, it's not about the drugs. It's not about the alcohol. It was about my thought process.
Yep.
You know, I learned that all those things, and I know you guys have probably said this a million times, that all the drugs and alcohol, that was not
It was but
my
a symptom.
problem, but that was my solution that I chose at that given moment.
I mean, that's a
And
good
so-
point too. Like challenging our thought process is like just
Yes.
just because we go to one specific home meeting doesn't mean we can't go to another different meetings.
Yeah.
That's how we can challenge our thoughts.
Right, and that's exactly it. And that's why I went to the different meetings, because I went there, because I would take all the rules that were out there and I'd bend them to the way I could, I could
Oh,
create.
an addict doing something like
I
this?
could create a gray area that was the size of the universe so that I could make things the way I wanted them to
Right.
be. So I went to different meetings to make sure that I adhered to their wishes. I went, my AA home group was there, and they were filled with, they were recovering addicts, but they had that as their home group because they wanted people to identify as alcoholics, and they wanted people sharing as alcoholics. And then I'd go to the NA meetings, make sure that I was using the word I'm an addict. I didn't want to confuse it for the newcomer.
Right,
you know.
right.
And so whatever meeting I went to, I always tried to adhere to the verbiage. I always tried to respect the rules of that meeting, however that was. So that to me was part of my recovery, was starting to learn how to respect all of the rules within those things, which helped me to take that out into the real world as well.
So, personal note on that same thing, and I shared with this, I think just the other night when we were talking about it, was like, me personally, like, I've got guys, before COVID, you know, my recovery was lots of meetings at the beginning. And there's thousands of alcoholics and addicts out there who know me as Alcoholic Addict Tim. Alcoholic Addict Tim. And I was loud about it. Every meeting I went to, that was Tim. I was me. You know me. Loud. Every meeting. And then COVID came, meeting shut down. Here at 2218, one of the only places that never shut their doors. Never shut them.
Yeah.
They started an NA meeting that I'm part of since almost the beginning now.
Did you help start that meeting, Tim? Did you help start that NA meeting?
I'm part of that meeting. It's been part of it since there was not many people going to it.
Yeah.
But what I'm getting at is, like, I took a service position at that meeting from day one, and I was still Alcoholic Addict Tim. We would read the clarity statement, and I'm saying Alcoholic Addict Tim, and I'd read the clarity, and it was just words, okay? And I'm talking 3.5 years into my recovery. Just words to me, reading it, almost memorized it, matter of fact. And something occurred where we're trying to get this meeting built up. 6 days a week, we've got big rent here, and we've got to get funds. And, you know, it's got to be self-sustaining. We got to get the word out, blah, 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 blah. So I find out that someone who's got quite a few years, where I was like, well, where's he at? Why isn't he part of this meeting? And it got back to me like he doesn't want to be part of a meeting where someone's not respecting the clarity, it's singleness of purpose in a clarity statement and a, but it was basically because of me. And for a month or so, I was like, that's his problem. He needs to deal with that. That's something he's going to lose out on his recovery, blah, 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 you know. I don't know what it was. It was ego. I mean, it was ego.
Yeah.
And my feelings got hurt and whatever, but I didn't even talk to no one. I just changed. I was like, all right, it's Addict Tim. Tim Addict, whatever. And I know it's kind of weird for my family sometimes when they come and I get chips at certain meetings. I'm like, Alcoholic Addict Tim. And I know my mom's like, well, you didn't even hardly drink ever. Like, that wasn't okay. But then it changed, like, Addict Tim, and it was some of the biggest growth in my recovery. Just that little simple thing for me personally.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was one of them, and I could recognize it as growth because my ego got hurt.
Mm-hmm.
It really got hurt, big time. Someone told me about myself is what it was, and I knew, and I think it hurt because I knew it was the truth. And like you said, like we come here to get healthy. I think I'm paraphrasing. We come here to get healthy and live this new way of living, and that comes with like following some rules that aren't ours.
Yeah, right.
Not bending the rules to
Right.
our liking.
To accommodate us.
Yes.
See, I,
So
I bend the rules when it comes to that.
see, there we go. Now here's the other side, and she's
No,
gonna, in
no,
her head's
okay.
gonna tell her why she's
So,
okay for it.
I
Why?
do. I bend the rules because when I go to a meeting, I say my name's Elena and I'm addicted.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if it's an AA meeting, an NA meeting, any meeting, because if I don't say that I'm addicted, in my mind,
Yeah.
I'm gonna come up with a reason why I can go out and do something else.
Right. But I think that's awesome, though.
I have
and,
to
and,
be
and I respect that.
because I'm addicted to alcohol, I'm addicted to
Right.
drugs, I'm addicted
Yeah.
to shopping, I'm addicted.
Right, and I think that's perfect. I've got a guy that I work with, and he would complain about people using. It was something about the singleness of
Yeah,
purpose.
yeah.
But I explained to him. I said, in the NA text, it talks about alcohol being
A drug.
a drug.
Yep.
And that people who say that they're an addict, and I'll say this. I said the people who are true belief addicts read the text.
We call them NA Nazis. We do.
We do.
I don't preach it. I just
Yeah.
Anyways, I told him that they believe that alcohol is a drug too, and it made him kind of shift his
view?
bias against addicts because I told him, I go,
If you read the
alcohol is-
literature,
right? I said alcohol is included in that for the addicts.
Yeah.
Yep.
I said so the real addicts, and I'm not trying to exclude anybody, but I'm trying to make a point as to what I said to them. The real addicts know that they're addicted to more. They're
Right.
addicted
Yeah.
to everything you just said there and more. And that's but so everybody has a reason why they do what they do,
Yep.
and it works for them. And that's what's beautiful about this program
Right.
is that you do what works for you. Hey,
Right.
man, as long as you stop drinking, you stop using, you freaking have hope.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
hope.
You know what I mean?
And that's like Rob, the guy who take me through NA is like, you know what, Tim? He never sees that you're here.
Yeah.
Like,
right.
sometimes
Absolutely.
at the end of the day, like you're here. I'm not going to say something to hopefully drive you away.
Right.
Someone that didn't show up because I was introduced in that way, he helped me through it. He's like, he's got the time. He'll go find another meeting.
Right.
You're not going to. He's not going to go back using because you were alcoholic addict Tim.
Right.
But there are situations like I know people. I'm Tim, and my problem is Tim.
Yeah.
That's how they introduce
Yeah,
themselves.
I know.
Yep.
I've been in those. as
Yeah,
well.
and I don't really care. Me, I'm not the NA. I'm doing quotes here, audience. The NA Nazi guy or the hey, if that got you in this room,
Right.
I don't really care how you introduce yourself.
Right.
Right.
And I do believe that way.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate, and I think it's our predecessor set this up in a specific way for this to be understandable to maybe someone who's a newcomer and can't figure a lot of these things out. So if it's nice and easy, then it makes sense.
Yeah.
Because I do see the other sides of a lot of it now.
And for me, that's where that 3-foot bubble comes in. I
Yeah.
do what works for me. You know what? I'm a grateful recovering addict. I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic.
Right.
Wherever I'm at, that's what I'll use. If it's anything other than AA, I'll usually refer to myself as an addict.
Right.
At CMA, HA.
How do you introduce at a CMA meeting?
I'm a grateful recovering addict.
Okay, addict is still
CMA?
okay. I don't know.
No, I mean,
See,
what else do they do at CMA?
I like that you say
I'm-
recovering because when the people
I
that
never
come to
say I'm
meetings,
recovery.
when the
Or
people
recovered?
that come to
I
meetings
never
and
say
they
I'm
say
recovered.
recovered, I just
I
want to
can't.
look at them and say, "How did you do it?"
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Like how you. I know sometimes those people are like 6 months in. Like how you recovered in 6 months.
Tell me how you did it.
We know the guy
Yeah.
who does that.
So
Yeah.
I know a guy who this is what he told me. All right, when he had like 7 or 8 years, and he said, you know what, Mark? You know when you go in and you paint a room and the room's completely painted, it's painted, right?
Okay.
Yep.
So that's how he.
That's how he correlated. I finished the
that's how
12 steps.
Yeah, and he felt like he goes. I've recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that's why he says he's recovered. But that doesn't mean that he stops going to meetings or
Right.
stops doing the
Right.
stuff.
Big
Because
Dave
if
does
you-
that.
So technically,
Yeah.
now this is what I was told. You know, you take a look at the steps, and I actually took a class on the steps, and it said, how many times are you supposed to do the steps? How many times was it meant to be done?
As many times as it takes.
Well, if you look through it, it gives you a blueprint to do it, but technically only once because you've got
Technically,
10, 11,
yes.
and 12. Those are your maintenance steps.
Yep.
So you go through and you review your day. And so technically, you go through the steps once, but you're doing them every day. You're correct. And actually, you're absolutely right. But technically, if you go through the steps and you do your 4-step and you go through and you do all that stuff, then when you're doing your maintenance steps and you're reviewing your day every day, because there it talks about going through and reviewing your day.
Yep.
So after every day, you review your day. So you are going through them, but technically, you get a
forever.
sponsor that takes you through it that one time.
Yep.
You do it thoroughly, and then the maintenance steps keep you doing it every single day. So
So you go through them
Depends on
once,
how-
but yeah.
So it depends on how you look at it.
So this kind of
Yeah.
goes to that. No, this goes to exactly what you're saying. This is for Mark from Jocks. For Mark, what gives you the clarity to see the early sobriety Mark was bending rules to suit yourself? What it was it time? A specific moment?
Oh, that I was bending the rules.
Yeah. The early sobriety Mark.
He's talking about like your first year in sobriety. I
Yeah,
guess what he's
no,
talking
my,
about.
my memory's not that great, but
Ah.
but so well, let me. I'm going to say this. I remember when in my first year of sobriety, and actually probably first few years, I was not a good person the last couple of years, right? I had
The last couple years of use.
of use,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
So I had some time of infidelity, right? And so when I first got into recovery, I would always introduce myself, and if there was a female around, I'd make sure they knew I was married. You know?
What, for accountability reasons or?
Yes. And so when he asked that, I don't know why I thought about that, because it was because it was almost like making amends to my wife at the time. You know, I always wanted to make sure that I was on the up and up about where I was at. And so when I don't know why I thought about that, but you know, and I don't, I guess because I don't make sure that people know that I'm married anymore. I'm in the middle of a divorce, but I guess the long and the short of it is, there's a certain sense of peace and serenity I have now with being who I am today and being okay with who I am. I think my first few years of recovery, I was trying to make up for lost time in those early years of recovery with my family.
Yeah.
I was a coach for my kids
Right.
for the first couple of years. I mean, I did everything those first few years to like make up for that lost time, you know?
Yep.
I wanted to make sure I was very loyal to helping out my wife. I was making sure I was trying to do what I needed to do to help out with the kids. And so I probably overdid it in trying to parent, in trying to be a good father, in trying to be a good brother. So and I was trying to make living amends. I wanted to
Yep.
go and get my degree because of how much my parents helped me
Right.
out. So in the first half of my recovery, I was really probably just going all out in trying to overdo it to
Like-
make up for all the crap that I
So
did.
is this you trying to say also like, so I was bending certain rules to accommodate getting these things done or accomplish? You see what I'm asking?
I do, but you know,
Does that even correlate with this?
Here's the thing. I don't know if when I talk about bending rules, I think most of my rule bending was done prior to me getting into recovery. So what I did is I went the other. Do you know what I mean here?
You mean about not having to do recovery type?
No. So he was talking about bending rules in early recovery.
Yes.
Did I say I was bending rules
Yes.
in early recovery?
Yes. Yeah,
you
in
did.
early recovery.
Yeah.
I said I was bending rules.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
where
you
the
did.
you did.
Okay.
Or maybe it came out that way.
Yeah.
Maybe it came out that you were
way.
bending rules to your like.
Right.
To
but,
make-
but that was not in early recovery. I'm sorry. I may
Okay.
not have.
So
said
what
that.
you meant was like before you got
So-
into
so-
recovery.
right. So like when I said
Your whole life you bent rules.
Right.
to-
That's what I meant.
Okay.
So I switched gears mid sentence. By the way, I probably have some ADHD stuff, and I got some Red Bull. And
Yeah, I
some
got. All
freaking
right,
coffee.
you know what?
So,
Yeah, we got
so
it.
I think I switched directions. I was saying, you know, I was bending rules a lot, and then I went to in early recovery. I did that. So I think that's what I meant.
Okay.
I don't felt like I bent rules in early recovery, but what I feel like I did is I made up for it when I got into recovery.
Okay.
And so I went from when I bent rules, because then I switched into all the different meetings I went to,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So the bending the rules was before I got into recovery, and to make sure I was following the rules was I would go to the different meetings to make up for all those bent rules prior to recovery.
That makes
Does
sense.
that make sense?
No, it does.
So
like,
I switched gears
Yes.
in mid sentence. So I see.
and that's all right. Yeah, Jocks was because I'm sure I know what he was asking. Like,
right.
Because if you did say it doesn't matter, you didn't mean it that way. So what? Some sustenance to this conversation and to the podcast. First and foremost, yeah, I've got him all jazzed up on. He's like through the
Caffeine.
roof
You got
on
him all
caffeine.
caffeined up right now.
Red Bulls and coffee and
That's a conversation.
pop.
It's good conversation.
So
it is.
yeah, that's our idea on doing that. But So yeah,
Wow, Drew.
prior to recovery, you were doing what you wanted to do,
Right.
whether it was the right or wrong thing. You made it so in your head it was the right
It
thing.
was okay.
I mean, which addict never did that?
Yeah, exactly. Like that's what the end was usually for us.
Yep.
So you weren't coming in here in a winning streak, huh? You didn't find these rooms and you're like, ah, shit, I'm doing so well, I might as well give it a shot anyways.
God, no. I
Maniacal
don't think
laugh.
any addicts ever come in with a winning streak. We always
Nah,
come out
yeah,
with,
it was kind of a
with
joke.
a shovel in our hand, like trying to dig ourselves out of that hole.
Right. I just kept digging deeper, man.
Hey, you haven't hit your bottom till you stop digging.
Well, I remember one of the guys in my home group talked about that. He goes, he'd always say I was the man with the plan. I always had a plan. I had a backup plan. I had a backup to the backup plan. And so coming to these rooms meant that I had I went through all letters of the alphabet, 12 times over, and I had no more backup plan.
Yep.
You know.
It's just the end of the road.
Because for a lot of people, this is their last resort is going to a meeting. For some people,
Well,
that's-
jails, institutions are death, and a lot of times people forget that the institutions, that's a treatment center.
yeah,
It's
they're
not
called-
just like the hospital.
No, they're called rehabilitation centers for a reason.
Yeah, these our predecessors knew what they're doing when they wrote these words.
Yep.
Huh, Elena?
Because even in institutions, they have meetings like this in institutions themselves, like in jails and prisons. They have their own meetings.
I'm actually pretty impressed by that. When I worked at the residential rehab center, we had a different fellowship that would come in every night. So we had NA come in, we had CMA come in.
Where was this at?
Cortisone. Chicanos por la Causa.
I like that. Yeah, yeah.
It was about a mile from the jails down there in South Phoenix. Wow. Praise be.
Praise be. So I have a question for you.
All right.
We always, a lot of times, religion and spirituality come up.
Yes.
And I know we've kind of touched on you have your higher power.
Yes.
Okay. Let's talk about this. We're at the before I bring this up. We've got probably a good, I'd say 15, 20 minutes.
Okay.
Is there something else pressing that you wanted to, was there something that you wanted to talk about?
Nope.
Nope. All right.
Whatever comes up, bro, is what we're supposed
Here's
to
what's coming up. Spirituality, religion,
Yeah.
higher power,
Okay.
your recovery.
Yeah.
Go. You did share a little bit about it before, the universe, and
Yeah.
it turned into this
you
maybe
know
or
what?
that.
I went through a lot, dude. When I first started, I started out with reading Emmett Fox, which I think is, I don't know.
What is that? I've heard the name.
Emmett
It's
Fox,
a,
he wrote, well, the first one is Sermon on the Mount.
okay.
So he wrote this a dissertation, if you will, almost as. Emmett Fox is amazing. He actually wrote a bunch of books, and actually he was pretty prominent in the annals of AA at the beginning, because I believe it was Bill Wilson and some of the guys used to preach in like New York City, and then they go see him. But he does a whole translation of the Bible in a way I've never seen before.
Wow.
So that
Like easy reading or?
I'd say it's fairly easy
Okay.
reading. It's stuff you can find at Emmett Fox. If you look it up, Sermon on the Mount is a big one, and then he's got other ones about the Ten Commandments and different things. But so what I did though is because I had to find something, and I think that's why the first year was so hard for me. I was trying to figure out what this whole higher power stuff meant.
Right.
None of the religions made sense to me. I was born and raised Catholic, but I was blessed. I had a grandmother who freaking believes in the Catholic faith, and she was a very positive human being. I have a mother who went to Catholic school, and she was a very positive human being. And so
I guess I don't remember because you guys are so much older than me, so much older. What was church? I mean, we don't have to go down that, but did you go to church?
Yeah, man, we went to St. William's Church over in Fridley, Minnesota. Man.
Yeah, I know.
I went to catechism. I got so. By the time
You were confirmed?
Yeah.
I wasn't even born yet, probably.
I know, bro. I'm
Dude, you're like
sorry.
80, bro. I don't know. No, I'm
Killing
joking.
me over here.
I know. This is my jabs I get to take.
So but after I turned 16, my mom goes, "All right, you know what I want you to do. I'm not going to wake you up every Sunday morning to go to church with me." And I said, "Phew, thank God." But
I was the same
So
way.
Auntie gave you the freedom at 16?
well, yeah, because she didn't want to wake me up. I started drinking when I was 15, so I'm probably.
Yeah, I guess you boys partying.
Anyways.
Man, my parents did the same thing for me when I was 15. They gave me the choice when I was going to visit my grandma in Montevideo, Minnesota.
Yeah.
I had the choice if I wanted to go or not when I was 15.
Oh, lucky Chuckies.
Yeah, right on, man. Well, So I felt I say that because I had a good baseline. I really do believe that I had a good baseline for spirituality, not necessarily religion. But I read through a lot of different things. I read through conversations with God. I read through. I eventually came into contact. I read like Eckhart Tolle stuff. I was really trying to grab on to something that made sense to me.
That's what you're doing, trying to find
Yeah.
what they talk about.
Right. I mean, I went through the
Step
steps.
2, though. I mean,
I-
how did you thoroughly go through a step without having your higher power?
So here's the thing, though. I always believed in God.
Okay.
I just never trusted in Him
Okay.
until after that first year. Okay. So here's the thing. They say that when you go through these steps, there's only one step you really got to do 100% thoroughly, right?
Step
Well,
one.
Isn't it step 0?
Step one.
Concede to your innermost self that you are an alcoholic or an addict. Right?
That's step one.
Is that step 1?
Here,
That's a
here.
one
Let
to admit to
let
100%
the
to.
9-monther tell you 13-year what's going on.
I mean, I believe it's step one. is the
Okay,
one
you
that-
believe it is. All right.
Right, right. So just before you get to step 1, they have a writing in the big book that says that you
Yeah.
need to concede to your innermost self that you're an alcoholic.
There you go, huh?
So once you concede to your innermost self that you're an alcoholic, then you admit that you're powerless, right?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I was busting your balls, Matt. That's
know
it.
you were.
I was. We're all good.
no, that's,
I mean, this ain't my first stint in recovery. I used to have 8.5 years at one point.
There you go. Then
I
you
know.
should know. All right.
I was just repeating what I was told,
Right.
you know. And so you go through the steps, right, which I did, and I did everything like to the best of my ability.
Yeah.
And so I was grateful because at Crossroads West, they make you go through a step a week until you do all the steps, right?
Yeah.
So you get through them. And I was also told that at one point in time, they would go through these steps in one sitting. You know, back in
Yeah.
the day, they'd go through it all in like a weekend or a day
Yeah.
or whatever, you
Yeah.
know?
Back to Basics talks about that. That
Yeah.
book, Back to
Yeah, they do.
Basics.
Yeah, yeah.
So, like, with step 12, when did you have your spiritual awakening? How long into your recovery was that?
I want to say it was after the very first year when I had that like holy shit I feel like I don't have that obsession anymore. You know, it was right when I hit that 1 year mark when I feel like the weight of the world was lifted off my shoulders. I kept doing what they told me to do. I kept coming back and I kept working on that. You know, but what happened was so I'm going to bring up the book that really changed my life was A Course in Miracles. That's the spiritual connection. And when I read through
What was the name of it?
It's called A Course in Miracles.
Okay.
So, I know it goes against everything that you could probably imagine about religion. It goes and that's what has allowed me to do what I do in hospice. That's what allows me to take care of my 3-foot bubble. That book reinforces a lot of the stuff that AA is about, and basically that book also says that everything is of my own making. Everything in my life is of my own making, good, bad, indifferent, whatever.
Yeah.
And also that's what recovery teaches
You mean
me too,
like kind of
you know?
what's your part in this?
Yeah.
But preceding.
But in that book it says you are a part of all of this. It's all your perception. Everything that you're doing is your own perception.
So you believed in God, you didn't trust him.
Right.
That's where you were at going through these steps.
Yep.
You made it through these steps with that same thought, though.
Until I made it that first year, that's when I started trusting God.
So it was after
Right
you
after
got that
1
chip.
year that 1 year chip, I finally trusted God. I was like, all right, I know you got it.
And then just from that point on, you've been able to, you say universe, and I think that's to make it easier for maybe people that don't, newcomers. Okay.
That's what I throw it out there for.
Okay, so God, we can. This is your show, bro. This is if that's
So I
what
can
you
say-
believe.
I can say universe then too, right?
You can say universe too, asshole. So, all right.
It's not my show, bro. This is your show.
Yeah,
You're the
no,
big leaguer.
You're the,
No,
but you're
I'm
the
just
guest.
a talent.
So it's,
I'm just a talent.
you're the guest, so it's your show when you're on.
I'm just a
Anytime
talent.
it's a guest, it's your show.
It's how a group, man. This is what recovery is.
That's right.
It's true.
So, you made it through. You trusted God after you got your 1 year.
Correct.
How long did it take you to get through the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous?
How long?
Yeah, did you get it done in that first 12 weeks?
Yeah, I did. I
Once a week
So I
in
had-
that first.
So do you remember Sean?
Yes.
You met Sean.
Yeah.
Okay. He's the one who took me through the steps.
Oh yeah, I met him.
So he made me believe in service work. He drove from the east side of Phoenix all the way over to the west side every week to work on every step, and he signed my card for me. Sorry.
No, you're good. Hey,
When I pound on
passion.
there, that makes noise, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I've let it go for like an hour and 20. You're fine. Don't even worry about it. You're good.
You just
Serious.
made up for letting it go that whole time by that
By
one
co-
comment,
by-
right? Because you had to get that in there.
I
That's
just, there's never a good time to tell someone.
there's no
When you're in the
free
middle of
football
something like,
there, man.
and it's good talk, like you've been killing it this whole show. It's like, when am I going to tell them, like, hey, this here, the audience hears. But you know what?
Doesn't that emphasize it, dude? when
It
you
does,
put it down
dude.
like
It
that?
does. That's why I couldn't say nothing. Oh, Cuzzo, I'm so glad you're here. Yeah, so Sean took you through it.
Yes.
Did it in 12 weeks.
12 weeks, yes, a step a week.
What do you do after you completed your 12 step to that 1 year without trusting in God? Do you think maybe why there was that bitterness or that miserable
Oh, yeah,
times? Or
absolutely.
that's what you'll chalk it up to?
Oh, absolutely. No doubt. I didn't trust God at that time. Dude, I remember, so I'll remember, so I went through the steps, but you still have to review it every day, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'll tell you a story about when I went in, and I want to say it was around, I was figuring out the third step, right? It was when I got a job got a job working overnights at Walmart, right?
Yep.
Stocking the shelves.
I remember.
Very humbling. And I got to ride my brother's yellow bike to and from the bus stop.
You know
and
what?
to
Let's
work.
kind of pause for 1 second and kind of break this down. Like you came from prior to recovery, you're at over a 6-figure year job.
Well, no, I didn't quite make it. I was at like $99,100.
Okay, you're at a 6-figure year job in your active addiction and active drinking and use,
I did.
You would be at a point where most would say he was doing great
Yeah.
financially.
Yeah.
To living in your car,
Yeah.
if that lucky, sometimes maybe a motel
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah.
Basically nowhere to go.
Yeah.
To recovery at halfway houses, midway houses, to
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
what, $10 an hour job,
That was like $7.50 an hour.
$7.50 an hour, riding a
over at
10
Walmart.
speed, riding a
It wasn't
10
a 10
speed
It
there,
was a decent bike.
riding
I
a.
thank my brother for that. Thanks, bro.
I'm just trying to put some weight to the situation
no,
to
I
show
agree,
people.
bro.
All right,
Yeah,
all right,
you're
okay.
absolutely right. I did.
So
I was successful in many eyes, and then I freaking went right. I pulled it. So yeah, so I when I filed taxes that 1 year, it was $99,100, and then the next year I filed taxes, it was $10,000, and $6,000 of it was from unemployment.
Wow.
so $4,000 you made.
Wow.
Yeah, that was working at Walmart.
Yeah,
So,
humbling, like you said.
Yeah.
So I cut off your story.
but no,
So-
I needed that to happen.
Yeah, that's part of your story.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
So you were going. I cut out. Do you remember what you were in the middle of telling me?
So we were going. So I do remember, like when I find. Actually, I say I learned to trust God after that year chip, but that time between the 12 the 12 weeks and I finished the steps, and I learned to trust God. That whole time was actually a dance, if you will, with God, right? That it's like, all right, so I used to say, if you don't want me to drink, then I'm going to walk into this liquor store and there's not going to be anything for me to buy.
Right.
Two, stocking the shelves, and I wanted
In
to leave.
Arizona, they sell alcohol at Walmart, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
Okay, just
So I was stocking,
forgot.
stocking shelves, and you know how you can con yourself into being so physically sick that you're just like, oh, I feel so bad. I should just leave. I gotta freaking leave.
yeah.
And
I had a brother like that.
And so what happened was that, because prior to me getting into recovery, I'd worked at Walmart in a different part of the city, and I wound up losing the job because I was an addict and alcoholic,
Yeah.
and I couldn't keep it at that point. I couldn't even keep a job at Walmart, so I guess that's kind of ironic that I went back to Walmart. They actually hired me back before I walked off the job because I was an addict and alcoholic, and I just walked off the job. But this time, instead of walking out the door, literally a few months before I walked out the door, I don't know, because I felt like shit. And so this time I felt like the exact same way. And I was like, literally just like going, I just pounded the table again.
Oh,
I felt
see?
like shit. I felt like shit. And I finally did. I said, all right, I'm going to do it differently this time. And I stayed there. I stayed at work at my fucking $7.50 an hour job at Walmart. And I said, fine, fuck you, God. I'll fucking do it your way. I'll listen. I'm going to sit here and I'm going to wallow in my jeans and my long-sleeved green-ass shirt because it was a Walmart, neighborhood Walmart, and I wore my long-sleeved green-ass shirt. I was like crying tears onto my jeans, and I just sat there as I was facing product very slowly, feeling sorry for myself, like God hated me so much, but I just did it. And I went home and I stayed clean and sober.
And this was before your 1 year.
This was way before my 1 year. It was.
That's awesome.
So I keep saying, you keep saying God, and we say higher power.
Yes.
We can say that.
Yes.
We could say universe.
Sure.
So something greater than yourself.
Absolutely.
And you agree with that?
Yes.
Okay.
Indeed.
I'm not getting at nothing. I just,
No, I'm with you.
for some of us,
Yeah.
me included,
Yeah.
need to know that, because maybe that's a hurdle a lot of people still are having issues with,
Yeah.
or it's a hurdle some just will never, hopefully they do, but never can figure out that concept of themselves not being the higher power.
And I think that's when I handed it over to something other than myself. I don't even know if I freaking trusted God at that time, but I just knew that what I did, and luckily I had at least enough wherewithal that I had the exact same. See, God slaps me upside the head like very blatantly many times, you know. So like here I was at the exact same job at a Walmart working overnights, which I was there like 60 days beforehand, and I was about ready to do the exact same thing that I did previously, which was leave and go and drink and use. And this time I didn't do it. So it was the first time that I experienced something that, you know what, sometimes I may not know what to do, but for the first time in my life, I knew what not to do. And sometimes that's all I need is to just know what not to do, because that's what helped me. And that helps me through these times sometimes, you know what I mean?
Yeah, because you have just recently been through some
Yeah.
trying times, we could
Yeah,
say.
yeah, absolutely. I still don't know what to do all the time, man. They talk about we will intuitively know how to handle things and
They
situations.
use the math
Nah,
with us?
For me, fuck that. It's about knowing what not to do.
So like that whole thing of history not repeating itself, or history,
Right.
history helped you there. You know what not to do, and in situations that's good enough.
Yeah.
Get you through to the next moment.
To me, that's the next right thing, is just not drinking or using, man. And you know why I remember when I went to those hardcore NA meetings, the stag meetings, and I remember there were guys that had 19, 20, 30 years of recovery that were talking about putting a freaking revolver in their mouth, ready to pull the trigger in recovery, and they chose not to do it. And I remember going, wow. And some people go, holy crap, you got somebody that has that much time under their belt and they want to take their life. It's like, yeah, I connect with that,
Right.
man. I want to hear that stuff. I want to hear those hardcore NA stories, because I need to know that people have real struggles
Right.
out there.
It's-
And
yeah.
me, even though I have some time under my belt, when I was in going to those meetings, even if I had a few years, it was good for me to hear how intense it got for people.
Yeah.
But they always said they were part of the no matter what club, right?
No matter what,
No matter,
matter
what,
what.
man, you just
you
hang
don't
on.
use the
Yeah.
one
Yep.
in NA. Like the one thing you got to do 1,000% perfectly,
Yeah,
not pick up.
right.
That's
Yeah.
it.
That's all you got to do.
That's what you got to do
Right.
perfectly.
That's part of that first step. right?
That's part of that
It
That
is.
one half step.
one half step.
Yeah.
Step
one half
zero.
Step zero. Yeah.
So like, God, it lost me. Newcomers. We talked about this. I talked about this last week, and kind of what you're saying now is me correlating to this. Like they always say, the newcomer is the most important person in the
Yeah.
room. So with that said, I guess it gets perceived a lot of times to some not newcomers, some of these old timers, because it was an old timer that kind of laid it on us in the same situation. You were at one of these Thursday night meetings I'm about to share about one of these old timers. It was a stag meeting. We just call them men's meetings. I don't know. I love stag meeting. I love that term.
Yeah, it's a good term for it, actually.
So this men's meeting, like this old timer, he gets on a soapbox about, newcomers pretty damn important, but so are we. Like he gets on this soapbox and he's 23, 25 years. He's like, we get complacent. We get suicidal. Like they're just that. He's like, we're just as important. Even though it just says the newcomer's most important person in the room, we're pretty damn important too.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if there's even a question in there or not, but like your thoughts on that being I know NA, the most important person is the newcomer. I don't recall how it's worded about a newcomer in AA. But I imagine it's the same thought process, or is it? I don't know.
I think that's what everybody says. I mean, when I hear an old timer talk like that, it's where they're coming from at that moment in time, man. I don't
Is it
think
like
they're-
semantics? Like, does it really matter at that point in time when there's a
You know what? At that point in time, I think he is probably the most important person at that
Yeah.
moment in time.
yes?
you
I would
know?
agree with that.
And so that's cool. you
Glad-
know?
'cause,
There's,
Hearing that from them tells me that they're struggling themselves
Right,
at that
exactly.
point in time.
yeah, yep, exactly. And I think that's I think you got to honor that when stuff like that comes up, you know. And I think that dude, that's tough. I appreciate when she shared about how much time she had, because I've got I always seem to hear that right around when I'm coming up for anniversary dates. You know, I'm gonna have 13 years
Yeah.
coming up
Lucky 13.
on,
That's
on
awesome.
October 1st. And so, you know, for me, whenever I have these anniversary dates come up, I hear about the struggles that they talk about, how the in-between dates, you know, in between 5 to 10 years, in between 10 to 15 years, people, they get complacent.
Yep.
And that's when the intense relapses can happen. And
That's
people go out and they don't come back. I've lost a lot of friends.
That's what happened to me. Like when I had my 8.5 years, I was between the 5 and 10 year mark for me.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
I,
yeah.
I lost my grandfather like when I was 24, and like I finally moved back to my grandmother's house, and like seeing his urn up in her house, a picture of him, the American flag, because he was in the Navy in the Vietnam War. Like, and I was living downstairs with my dad and uncle who were actively using it at the time, and the anniversary of his death came along, and like I just broke down, and I used.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, that's intense.
It's that easy.
Because I got complacent in my recovery. I wasn't doing what I'm doing now with like being of service and volunteering and stuff. I wasn't doing that. I was just going to meetings, and it wore
so
me out.
You can totally connect with the guy that was saying that on that day, then, right? Like,
Yep.
hey, we're important too. We need
Oh,
to
yeah.
be heard. We need to be validated here, man. Don't forget about us, right?
Yep, exactly. Because there's times where I'll go to a meeting, I'll introduce myself as qualified to be here.
Right.
Doesn't mean I have to say I'm an addict or an alcoholic.
Yeah.
Because I'm qualified to be here no matter what.
Right. Qualified.
Yeah.
So at
Right
your
on.
13-year mark, right on when this time comes up, what were you saying? You were getting at like this.
Well, I always seem to run into people who have stories about relapsing right around that time, you know, and I think that's the universe speaking out to me, bro. You know, I got to do things to make sure my recovery is where it needs to be at this moment in time. And
You know-
usually something like somebody will come and ask me to speak at a podcast or something like that right around my time that's coming up. So,
You know
what a
what?
blessing, bro.
With that, I think we're going to mic drop, and I think that was a great way of ending our show of sharing. And now we're going to move this show into an announcement that someone has.
I do. I have an announcement.
Shoot.
Oh, so unfortunately this weekend we were not able to go to the great get together called Go for State.
Where this podcast was supposed to be at, and Cousin Mark was going to experience the largest thing that happens in the Midwest for recovery.
Yeah.
Tens of thousands of people show up, but apparently, don't get me on the soapbox, but go ahead, sorry.
Are you okay?
No, because apparently some virus is more important
Hey,
than
Tim, you
suffering
should
alcoholics and addicts.
Right.
But okay, go
It'll
ahead.
be my first time I go for state myself.
So, due to the fact that that's not happening, the lovely Alano that I go to, even though 2218 is amazing, I will say, Blaine Alano tomorrow, starting at 5:30, we are having a potluck. And then at 7 o'clock, we are having a speaker meeting. And then at 9 o'clock, we are having bingo. Unfortunately, bingo is gambling, so you do have to be 18 years old to play. But
cost money to play.
it does cost money to play.
It's not like you're making
But with this, you do win money. So anybody that would like to come out tomorrow night, starting at 5:30, there is going to be free food. It is a donate if you can, but you do not have to. And it's going to be a potluck. So if you can bring something, you can bring something. There's going to be a speaker meeting. We're going to do a couple things that they kind of do down at Go for State to kind of bring in the
Right, the
feeling
void,
of being at
yeah,
Go for State.
yeah.
We're
Right.
going to do the call-up meet, the countdown for sobriety, see how long people have been clean and sober.
That's awesome.
So there are a few things that we are going to do to kind of bring in the Go for State things. So this is at Blaine Alano, which is on the border of Blaine and Ham Lake.
Yep.
So if anybody needs any information, you can always go on to Facebook. The Blaine Alano website is there. But otherwise, it starts at 5:30, and it's probably going to be going until about midnight.
If not later. Thank you, Elena, for that. And yes, that's really a cool thing at this Gopher State. 10,000 people in this auditorium, and they do a countdown down to the guy with 24 hours. It's emotional. It's very great. So also another announcement is here at 2218, the Pat Cronin birthday bash and bike run. That is coming up September 18th. It's an amazing day honoring Pat Cronin. He's the founder of this longest continuously running Alano in the world. Him and old Bill W. started this place back when. So from 7:30 till 10:30 at night, 7:30 a.m. till 10:30 at night. Kickstands up at like 10 a.m. I believe. There's pancake breakfast. There's meetings. There's speakers. There's food and it's a blast. So with that said, here at 2218, if you're able to donate, follow the links and please do donate. Otherwise, come down here and volunteer some time. It's needed. It's great for your recovery. It's great service work. The club could always use volunteers. With that, Matt, I want to ask Elena what she's grateful for.
Why are you always starting with me?
Man, just what are you grateful for, Toots?
Yeah, Lena, what you grateful for?
I'm grateful. I don't think I have to give a reason to be grateful. I'm grateful. I'm grateful I woke up this morning.
Okay.
I'm grateful that I'm honestly grateful it's Friday. It's been a very, very long week. It's been a very long week. I got to spend some time with both of my kids. Everybody knows one of my kids moved out.
Yeah.
So she called up and said she wanted to come over. She only came over to color her hair in my bathroom so she could get hair color all over my house.
Oh, baby bird left the nest.
The point is that I got to hang out with my kid.
Yeah.
So that's the point. We're not
Yeah.
going to talk about me cleaning up black hair color. But I did get to hang out with my oldest for a few hours, so that was kind of nice. So, yeah, I'm grateful. It's the flipping weekend, dude.
Hell yeah.
Everybody knows I love the weekend.
It's your go-to every time.
It is.
That's awesome sauce.
I got the podcast on Friday nights and my home group on Saturday mornings. What is not better than that?
Right.
Oh yeah.
And Sundays I get to relax. If God rested on Sundays, so do I.
Whoa, look at these things.
I know.
So Matt, what are you grateful for this week?
I'm grateful I woke up sober today. That's for sure. I'm grateful for this podcast. I'm grateful for my outpatient program because it's helped me like focus, like look at myself and change my thinking. I know. I'm also grateful for my relationship with my significant other. Like, she chose to actually get herself back into an inpatient program, and so like, I was grateful for that to hear that she did that 2 weeks ago.
It's cool.
Like I did like the last couple times I've been on, and then doing these quotes. So with your cousin Mark saying something about like the universe, I found a decent one on here. It says, "Go with the flow and be willing to allow change into your life. For change is the only thing that's constant."
It's a great quote.
What are you grateful for, Tim?
That's nice. That's nice. The co-host got on it. The co-host. Me is always family. I am very, very grateful for family. I'm grateful for my mama. I love her dearly, and I am just grateful that she is a person I get to call mom and who's in my life and so understanding. I share about it all the time about how we burned so many bridges prior to finding a recovery, and then we get this thing called recovery. You know what? Not we. I find this thing called recovery and start cleaning up my side of the street and start becoming more clear and like present. And really you see the damage that you caused in your active addiction. And to see the people that are still there for you, it's pretty emotional sometimes. And I'm just really grateful for my family and my support system. I'm very grateful for that. Before I bring it to you, Mark, I just wanted to shout out a lot of people that checked in tonight. Ron, we appreciate you. My mom, of course. Tom Z was on. I believe Rob was on. Keith, Christy, and Jocks, and William, Roxanne, Christy, Teresa, old neighbor was on tonight. Pocahontas was on. A lot of people. Nate, Papa Bird was on. And then I have some that just says, and 15 others that it shows, and then whoever they shared link with, there's like 20 different links open right now, so it's hard to see everyone unless I go to those links. So just I want to say thank you to everyone that supports this show and everyone who's listening and keeps on listening. And with that, cousin, what are you grateful for this week? Wait, one more thing. I'm also grateful for meeting new people. I'm just grateful for meeting new people. I'm not sure how much I can elaborate, but I'm just grateful for meeting new people.
Right on.
With that, what are you grateful for?
Dude, I'm grateful for my recovery right now, man. It's one of the greatest gifts that I've ever gotten. I wouldn't have been able to meet everybody here and just share this moment, you know? One of the best things that I ever hear is one of old timer. He's got like 40-something years under his belt. He always starts off the meeting, 7:30 meeting, and he always says, "I've been sober for about 3 hours today," and it just reminds me that all we got is today. You know?
Yep.
This is based on our spiritual maintenance of our spiritual condition, and I'm just grateful to have that opportunity to be able to share this moment with y'all because it really has meant a lot to me. You guys are awesome. I love the stuff that you're doing here, and you guys rock it. So I'm grateful for y'all. Thanks.
Thank you, cuz.
We're grateful for you too. Just
Right
like
on.
coming from Arizona to come and do this podcast.
Yes, absolutely, man.
Came up here just for the
right.
podcast. I'm going to just take that type of credit. So I know there's things I'm forgetting. This is why my other host is really well to be here. I know the hosts we have with me tonight are awesome too. Like awesome sauce. But I just want to let anyone out there listening know that you're not alone. Please reach out if you feel like you're alone. We put our numbers on here. Friend me on Facebook or any social media. Just you're not alone. You're loved. You're worth something. Don't feel like you're worthless because you're not. People care about you. Just please reach out. Please reach out.
Absolutely. You're never alone.
Never. There's always something out here for you. You just got to make that leap. No one knows unless you speak up. So please let that know. Let that be known. If there's anyone you know that could benefit from listening to this podcast or there's information you want to give about recovery, you can do it on this feed. You can reach out to Elena, myself, Matt, Tad. Just don't hesitate, please. You're not alone. With that, also, hit that like button and share this. Share this shit.
Smash that like.
Smash that like button and
man.
share this
Smash
shit.
that like
Smash
button.
it.
Yeah, I'm just don't want to forget anything, and I think I have. So with that, Mark, again, thank you for being on the show. I love you, cousin. I'm grateful for your recovery and that I got to give you your 10-year chip at AFL. Matt, thanks for stepping up. Elena, thank you for really stepping up and kill it.
And for everybody that's listening, we love you guys.
Yes, we do. Kill that shit.